UK.
Har's book is called Shylock Is My Name.
Thanks to Dad's Army, the Home Guard has become synonymous with the bumbling exploits of Captain Mannering, Pike and the other residents of Wilmington-on-Sea.
For some, at least, the depiction by the TV show, and now the film, of course, isn't accurate. They feel it's masked the reality of the work done by volunteers in World War II. It's breakfast Tim Muffat's been finding out.
Don't tell him, Pike! Pike!
The Home Guard.
Don't panic! Don't panic!
A Dad's Army of bumbling, incompetent, elderly men? Who do you think you are kidding? Not 91-year-old Clifford Lord, one of the few surviving veterans of the real Home Guard.
It misrepresents the Home Guard enormously, and it is a total injustice. This is the chief point about Dad's Army. There was no amusement whatsoever. It was sheer hard work, utter fatigue, but there was a major compulsion on people to do whatever they could to stem the march of Hitler.
More than 1.5 million men volunteered for the Home Guard, the last line of defence in the event of a Nazi invasion. Age, health or job precluded most from full military service. Some professions were considered too important to the war effort. Clifford was an engineer. Aged 17, he joined the Home Guard and volunteered to defuse unexploded bombs. Did you get frustrated when Dad's Army was giving this idea that it was just bumbling old men?
I was absolutely appalled to begin with. We had cities being laid flat. Who do you think you're kidding, Mr. Hitler? What a ridiculous thing to think. If you think we're on the run, what about Dunkirk? Of course we're on the run.
Clifford worked in these ordnance factories in Worcester.
And this is where you used to gather as the Home Guard.
This is the first time he's returned.
I feel a bit sad. I'm thinking of former comrades, friends, fellow engineers.
Thanks mainly to the TV show Dad's Army, there is this view that the Home Guard consisted almost entirely of elderly men. However, research by the National Archives suggests otherwise. Its analysis of military records shows that in 1940, 50% of Home Guard volunteers were aged under 27. More than a quarter were aged under 18.
No old codgers at all, can I remember a single one. We were all young and very active.
Osterley Park in West London, where the Home Guard were trained.
And being the last line of defence, as it were.
This is it, men. Our chance to play a real part in this war.
Toby Jones is following in the footsteps of Arthur Lowe and is playing Captain Mannering in the Dad's Army film.
I totally understand anyone who feels that that part of history is simplified or in some way trivialised.
MI5 picked up another signal from the spy.
It has a scale to it that does honour the idea of Home Guard, perhaps more than some of the sort of, goonery that the series indulges in.
Despite that reassurance, Clifford won't be going to see it.
Enjoy your humorous programmes, but please don't think it's anything to do with the Home Guard that I knew and honoured.
That was Tim Muffet speaking to one of the surviving members of the Home Guard.
Joining us now, Peter Johnston, who's the collections content manager at the National Army Museum. Possibly more importantly, your grandfather was in the Home Guard.
He was, yes.
Tell us, what was your grandfather's name?
Dennis Self.
Dennis. So tell us a bit about Dennis.
So, like many people who joined the Home Guard, and as the VT shown just then, actually, there were a lot of young men who volunteered to defend Britain. My grandfather was just one of them. He was 17 when the call came to join up. Initially, there was an idea that there'd be 8 people per community would join a sort of a local, almost militia type thing, and he had to wait in line 2 hours to volunteer, and then he did. But I think it's very important that when we think about the Home Guard, yes, we look at Dad's Army and it's amazingly popular and it is really funny and it's part of Britain's cultural history as much as anything else. But there is a serious side behind it, and there's very much an aspect of an element of historical truth that I think has been neglected. But I think there are really real positives we can take from it as well.
Notwithstanding, there were people who were in the Home Guard were in real danger, weren't they?
Absolutely. I mean, 1,200 of them were killed during the war on active duty from air and rocket attack. This is not what our perception of the Home Guard are maybe of old men sort of more likely to do themselves harm than anything else and just almost get in the way. actually they take on quite serious military duties, which means that they are put in harm's way.
You brought in a couple of things for us to see, and this one fairly self-explanatory. But this was your granddad's helmet.
It was, yeah. That was his battle bowler, as it's nicknamed. It was actually his replacement because his first one was cracked by an Irish Guards NCO because he didn't pay attention during training. So that was his replacement one.
And you've also brought in for us. I'll hold this up too. Tell us about this medal you brought in.
So this is the medal. This is the defence medal that everybody who served in the Home Guard for 3 years was eligible to receive. There's some controversy actually because the Home Guard actually carried arms during the Second World War in defence of the country, and people like the Fire Brigade didn't, even though they still obviously carried out an important role. The government decided that the Home Guard would only be eligible for the Defence Medal rather than the other medals as well that came with it. And so, I mean, as you can see there, the medal card on the back sort of indicates this was a very standard form that was sent out to everybody that served under arms in the Second World War. And it would be ticked to say which medal you were entitled to and which medal you'd receive. And as you can
so you see
there,
the tick down there on the next to defence medal down there.
And what did your grandfather tell you about his time in the Home Guard? It was something really important to him, was it?
It was something very important to him. For many people in the Home Guard who were either underage and therefore couldn't join up or were overage or in reserved occupations, joining the Home Guard was a way to do their bit, to contribute to the war effort. This was total war. There was a desire for everybody to play their own part. And I think that's actually captured in the spirit of Dad's Army as much as anything else. People, you know, for all their good intentions and often the accidents that come with it, they are men who are committed to fulfilling their role and defending Britain should they need to. I know my grandfather really enjoyed his time in the Home Guard. He really valued his opportunity to be in uniform and do his bit for defence of a country at a time when it wasn't really considered a question of if the Germans would invade, but when, in the summer of 1940 when he joined up.
Really interesting. Thank you for bringing in the helmet and the medal as well. Good to see you.
Regards to your grandfather as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Dad's Army film is in cinemas this Friday.
Let's take a brief last